Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Play, Pause, Rewind. This is our 12th episode, and we decided to jump back a couple of years and talk about The Nice Guys. We know Fast and Furious 9 came out this weekend, but neither of us really have a connection to that franchise, and it felt weird to dedicate a full episode to talking about a movie that neither of us really have that much passion for. So, Niles, how are you doing, and what are your thoughts on Fast and the Furious as a franchise?
I'm doing well. I agree with you that we're not the biggest Fast and Furious fans. I still crack up just like about some of those just over the top,
Yeah.
special effects things that they do in the films, like especially that one scene where The Rock, he's in the cast the whole movie and
Yes.
he flexes so hard he breaks out of it.
breaks out of his cast. It is really funny, and it's
Yeah.
it's a series that is obviously very loved and appreciated by a lot of people, and it felt wrong for us to just talk about it for an hour when we do not have that connection.
Totally, yeah.
Because what's the point? Like, we don't totally love them. For whatever reason, it doesn't hit right for me, even though I feel like it should. It's the type of dumb schlock that I really enjoy, but it just doesn't land.
It's a lot of over the top, like no nonsense, just driving around. Physics don't apply to me. I'm the protagonist. I got plot armor kind of films, like.
Yeah. So, that being said, we wanted to look back to 2016 to Shane Black's The Nice Guys. We'll do very brief non-spoilers, and then we'll take the gloves off and go all in on the plot and everything else. Niles, what are your initial thoughts on revisiting The Nice Guys?
Yeah, I like The Nice Guys a lot. This is, it's always a fun movie. I think the casting was really well done. I think the story's kind of neat. And I like the time period it's set in. The 1970s are always kind of a interesting place to put a story in there because, I don't know. I didn't live in the 70s, so I'm kind of, fascinated by that decade. So, believe it or not. But I really like The Nice Guys. I think it's it's a solid film through and through, well written.
Mm-hmm.
I like Gosling. He does a great job, and so does Russell Crowe. I think that they're obviously the heart and soul of this film, and they carry it very well. What about you, Dylan? What are your initial thoughts on The Nice Guys?
Yeah, well, I guess initial thoughts was probably not the way to say that, because we've seen this movie a long time ago. But,
True, yeah.
I really like this movie, and I think it's fun to see Ryan Gosling play against type, at least from what I've seen. Usually he is a more suave and reserved kind of like top of the game character, and in this one he's kind of a little bitch, and it's really funny. I mean, I remember the first trailer. It opens with Healy, Russell Crowe's character, breaking his arm, and then Ryan Gosling's high-pitched scream into the musical sting of the trailer. Great. And he spends the entire movie in a cast because of that. Like, he is not at full capacity, and his full capacity seems to be just drunk all the time, which is great. I have one negative thing about this movie, which I'll get into later, but overall, I have always enjoyed this film, and I continue to enjoy this film. So,
Yeah, I'd agree that the like changing the expectations for what Ryan Gosling's role is going to be. I think it was very smart of them to cast him in this role, and yeah, I would agree that was the part of the trailer that got me really interested in this film. I was like, okay, that's going to be funny. That's going to be a really good movie.
yeah.
And yeah, I think this is my third time watching this film. It's your. Do you have a count number off the top of your head?
It's probably fourth or fifth. I don't really know.
Fourth or fifth?
In theaters, though. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it with you. I think.
I think you saw it in my living room senior year of college.
I think so. Yeah, that would make sense.
A bunch of us watched it. That was fun.
Yeah, and I think it's it's a good film overall. But since this is like my third time watching this film, what I will say is that I don't think it's as good. Every time I rewatch it, I kind of lose a little bit more interest in it, or just like it doesn't feel as like fresh or original, or just it doesn't hold my interest as much. I think you said when we were talking before that it's not the same for you, though.
I do not share that experience. No, my feelings on the film have not diminished on rewatch at all. I love it so much. But yeah, do you want to just start the discussion full on? Go spoilers.
Let's dive in. Why not?
So
Let's
this
do
movie
it.
is written and directed by Shane Black, famous for writing Lethal Weapon, Iron Man 3, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. More recently, the new Predator movie, which is apparently terrible. But I have not seen it, so I will not pass judgment. But of course, it stars Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling and Anjali Rice, I think is how you say her name, as Holland Marsh's daughter, Holly, Ryan Gosling's character's daughter, and then Margaret Qualley as Amelia, who is sort of the person they're looking for most of the film. And it is basically Healy, Russell Crowe's character, and March cross paths because Amelia hires Healy to get Ryan Gosling to stop following her. He is a PI who has been asked to find her as a person of interest in a missing persons case, and their journeys collide, and they have to find Amelia to help her. And there's also a porn film that's being filmed, but it's secretly like about exposing the corruption of the Detroit auto industry and a cover-up that they're doing. So that's what it's all about. And hijinks ensue. Yeah. So that's a little loose summary of it. It's very funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I
too.
yeah, I think it's got some great comedic moments throughout the film. Like, like when he was when Healy was breaking a March's arm at the start of the film. That's funny. Or like the one part that always makes me laugh is when they're dumping that body. Like they stumble across this
family.
they stumble across this body at this fancy Hollywood party or whatever.
Literally stumble. Like March falls down a hill. He falls down a hill drunk and lands on it, pretty much.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, we gotta dispose of this because people can place me at the scene, so let's dump the body. And they just huck it over this fence. It falls probably like 20 feet, 30 feet, and crashes on some other people's dinner party.
So funny.
I think that's so funny.
Like this is the implication that they didn't bother to check over the fence before they threw a body over it.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine? You're like, everyone come over. This is gonna be a great dinner party. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make my macaroni salad. You guys can bring some dishes. Like
that dinner party scene is such a great centerpiece of the movie, I think. And there's so many little moments where Healy at one point is given a drink and he goes to put it down on a table, but it's actually a human woman and it's just her ass in the air. And then later on in the sequence, in the background, there's an old dude who does the same thing and almost drops his drink. And it's like the movie doesn't highlight it at all. It's just like a thing that happened in the background and it moves on. I love jokes like that where it's like you just have to see it and then it moves on. It does not call attention to itself.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that when they can sneak those small little jokes in there. And, some of the, bigger moments of, humor, like when, he's scrambling for his gun and he keeps kicking it away, or,
or when Healy's like, March, gun, and he throws it and he just throws it out the window.
like, dude!
Shit!
Or he's trying to get the gun off of Healy's, ankle, because he was like, I have the ankle gun. It's like, did I dream that? Oh, I guess I dreamed that.
Yeah, and then at the party too, I love the recurring joke about when they're walking in and she's like, Dad, there are whores here and stuff. It's like, what did I tell you? Don't say and stuff, just say, Dad, there are whores here. And then later on, she uses that same advice for the porn star who is teaching her about porn, I guess, by showing her film.
Yeah. No, yeah, I appreciate that. It's got some good witty elements to it, and but it also doesn't. It's not afraid to use physical comedy too. When Russell Crowe just abuses people at the bar, he'll stop doing that, and he slams his head against it.
Yeah, it's very sharp. The dialogue and I'd say blocking are both really sharp and executed really well comedically.
Yeah, and I would also say, I didn't write down every moment that I noticed it, but kind of going through the film, I really like watching how color changes through film. I appreciate Wes Anderson a lot. He's a real master of that with Grand Budapest Hotel, or blanking on any of the other names right now. But
Moonrise Kingdom.
Moonrise Kingdom, thank you. That's a good example. But he's really good at using color to add another element to the story. And on this rewatch, I noticed there was some pretty good use of color, and it also, I think, benefited the cinematography too. Some of the shots were really neat because like, Ryan Gosling would stand out with like this really kind of like nice looking blue shirt against like, this more beige background or something like that. Like I think, some of the color elements were really nice and pleasing about this film.
Yeah, the costumes do really pop. Colors.
It definitely feels like the 70s.
It does feel very 70s, and I guess Magnum PI is 80s, but I think they're trying to go for some of that feel as well with the sort of presentation of the movie. Yeah. What did you think of the relationship with Holly, the daughter, between both March and Healy?
I think overall I enjoy her dynamic with the others. Like I think she adds another layer to the story because like if it was just the two cops, that would be kind of a boring movie. I think there's not as much like kind of going on in the film.
It would be more played out because the body.
Yeah,
and they're not cops really, but they're cop adjacent, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. That's just me, throwing a label on them. But I think I like the daughter character. I think Holly's fine, but she's not my favorite. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's the actor or maybe just the way she was written, but like, she does add another layer to the film. But in my opinion, I feel like she kind of feels a little one-dimensional. Like she's just the serious little girl, kind of keeping her dad in track like the whole time. Like I feel like she doesn't have a lot of, room to grow in this film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying in the sense that she's not as dynamic as the other two, but I think there is more to her than just being one note. She has that tough exterior, but then when you have the scene of her and Healy at the property where their house used to be, like you really see her vulnerabilities a lot more, I think. And she's as tough as she is because her dad is such a burnout at this point. Like he's completely destroyed himself. And I like that she just drives their car all the time, like because he's too drunk, and so he just has his 13-year-old drive him around.
Yeah, well, it was the 70s, so.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, like Healy doesn't point out that that's irresponsible or anything like that. It's just we are left to view and come up with our own conclusions about how reckless this situation is.
Yeah.
I love how she's so sharp because in the moment when she's in the car with Blueface, she recognizes the danger she's in immediately. She recognizes Amelia immediately and takes action and like saves Amelia's life in that moment. And then they team up, like they're working together and helping each other out. But I just love Amelia is a relatively minor character ultimately, but I love in that moment when they're in danger, like her instinct is to protect Holly. Like she blocks the guy's gun from her, and then obviously he gets hit by a fucking truck immediately after. But,
that's a great moment too.
Yeah, I love that character's introduction too, where he's just so mean and reckless that he gets whatever that is blown up on his face. He's like, and he was like, yeah, that doesn't come out.
It's one of those, the bags that you take from like a bank, with the money in it, and the die packs,
that scene where they break into Healy's place, kind of thinking about it, kind of reminds me of the opening of The Big Lebowski, where they break into his apartment, and it's him throwing fish at him is like the "don't pee on my rug" moment of this. Yeah. It's like, don't take it out on the fish.
Come on, dude, that rug really tied the room together.
Yeah. I do love just the way Healy talks to them. He's like, look, you break in here, you do the thing, I get it, that's part of the job, but you pissed me off. Like, you ruined my fish. You're beating me up. Now you made an enemy, and then
like I gotta go buy more fish now. Like, are you kidding, dude? One thing, I mean, just kind of circling back to like the girl, Holly. Like, she's, this is a comedy film, so I don't think they need like a ton of backstory or a ton of like background on like all their characters. And we did get a little of that, like, oh yeah, their house burned down. Like they're kind of, March and Holly, they've obviously had some hard times, but like, even just like I think a little bit more backstory for that could have helped her character a little bit, or maybe just even,
Okay.
I don't know. I had an idea of like, oh, it could have been nice if she had like a side plot that kind of like met in the middle or something like that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's it. I think it works the way it is for sure, but
I do love about their house burning down. It's like we're introduced to the idea that March can't smell as what seems to be like a character quirk and a joke, and then it comes back later in the movie. It's like, oh, that's a pretty big character beat that like because he can't smell, his wife died. Like, and it adds another layer to what was previously just a potentially one-off character gimmick, and there's a difference between writing deep characters and writing quirky characters, and tying that element back to his, like, it's the reason he's drunk all the time. It's the reason he's so pathetic is because he can't smell. And it's great. It's such a tight script. Like, it ties its humor into the character and plot so strongly.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job writing this. When I was doing some research, like just on this film, I realized that like when Shane and because this was co-written, co-written by two different by Shane Black and Anthony
Bagarozzi.
Bagarozzi. Thank you.
Bagarozzi.
But when I was reading up on it, I realized that they were both assigned one of the main characters, both of them. So I think Black started off, I think, with Healy's character, and then Bagarozzi started off by writing March's character. But about like I think when they were kind of struggling a little bit trying to get the film kind of figured out, they just kind of swapped, and so that way they could both work on both the characters, but they could. It was a little bit more like siloed, I'd say.
That's interesting.
They could
so were they basically building character profiles up before writing the script, or did they write like they had the plot, but they were writing the dialogue for the characters separately?
I think it was. I don't recall honestly, so don't quote me on that. But I think it was in the early days of them writing the script and kind of developing the plot and everything. Like they were, they would focus on one character each, and then eventually when they hit a wall, they swapped places and started writing each other's characters a little bit. So that way they could take a fresh perspective at it, and I think that's definitely what helped them kind of create these characters that are excellent next to each other.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's and you say here in the notes that you found the villains kind of uninteresting and not memorable. That's I guess we have Blueface, we have Keith David, who voice of the Arbiter, if you didn't know.
Which one is he?
He's the black guy in the red suit.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
That's Keith David. I love Keith David. He's also in Mass Effect, but
he's great.
He has a really powerful voice.
He does, yeah. I think he's a great voice actor for sure. I think he kind of stood out as like a good villain. And Blueface, I mean, he's kind of funny to me. He just kind of meets a very comedic end, like he just gets blindsided by a car. And I just kind of wish that we got like a little bit more time to get to know those villains, or like establish who they were, because all of a sudden it was like, we're breaking into your apartment and going through your stuff, and I'm throwing your fish around and all that stuff.
Maybe they're just meant to be like they're agents of the establishment, both of them and John Boy. Like the villain, Detroit. It's
Detroit.
Just with the benefit of hindsight, I love the line, and it's very ominous in the movie, but just knowing what we know, the line when Amelia's mom is like, "You can't take down Detroit." Like, well, yeah, you. I mean, it's gone.
Yeah,
Detroit
I don't know
has been
about
taken
that.
down. It is not what it once was. Manufacturers obviously is not destroyed. It is just dispersed. But Detroit as a center of power is no longer a thing.
True, yeah. I think my complaint was just like, like John Boy, he's got such a sociopathic appearance, He like killed all those people on that one hotel floor and threw that guy off the and they watched him fall from the elevator.
Great comedic shot, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, they're not like series of shots, like they lean out of the elevator. go back to the elevator, falls behind him.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, it's like, nope, we are out.
Yeah, and I think just the way he was talking to Holly and everything, like how he was like very calculated.
Hmm.
Um, just me personally, I wish I got a little bit more like story out of him because he
Okay.
just seems like he's got some kind of like
It's very menacing.
interesting, yeah, very like he's got some interesting backstory, like something's going on
Hmm.
there. Like that's just me, and I feel like the woman who was the head of the Justice Department,
Yeah, Amelia's mom. I forget her character's name, but
yeah, like her. I guess she was a fine villain. She's the agent behind the scenes, pulling the strings. That kind of
yeah.
person.
I mean, it's
Uh,
it's the establishment. Like it's all
yeah,
they're all pawns in the larger scheme that is Detroit. Detroit is the antagonist. The power structures are the antagonist.
yeah,
But
yeah. That's
that one scene with John Boy though in their house, like another scene where Holly stands out is like very intuitive, very capable. Her friend is a complete dumbass, but
yeah,
he like recognizes, oh, this guy's bad. Immediately is like, this is not good, and tries to make the best of the situation. Gets a gun on him for a bit. How does he get the jump on her again? I don't remember. This last night or 2 nights ago, but I forgot.
yeah. I watched this last night. He
Because she gets
picks.
her gun on him.
I think she does something with, or he does something with her friend. Like he throws her
Oh,
at the window or something. I
oh
don't.
yeah, yeah.
I don't remember.
He's so casual with his violence. Like when March and Healy get there, and they're like, that guy looks suspicious. Like, did you hear that? He's like, yeah, I threw that little girl through a window. And pulls out his gun to start shooting at them.
He's got a trunk just full of like ammunition and like automatic weapons. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, that scene though leads me to my one negative of this movie. I think killing Amelia was a huge mistake and is very tonally out of place in this movie. It really like shoots the wind out of the sails for the rest of the movie. I think. You agree with that, or do you think her death was a good move story wise?
I remember it surprised me the first time that we watched the film. I was like, well, what the fuck are they gonna do now?
Yeah.
Like that just kind of, yeah. I would agree that it kind of like all of a sudden it's like a kind of it's a punch to the stomach, and you're like, oh, the person they were chasing after is dead. But like when I've been rewatching it, it's just I don't know. I think it works pretty well, honestly, for the
Okay.
film, and I think, yeah, I don't think it's a super big negative for me, but it's yeah, I think it works just fine, honestly.
Okay. I just it's and I guess it is effective as a gut punch for the and most movies have that low point where like all is lost moment, and I guess this is that. But I don't know. I just would have preferred, and maybe it wouldn't have worked if she didn't die. But maybe if she got captured, or it seemed like she was dead, or something, and then at the end of the movie she is released in some way. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just because the entire first like 2/3 of the movie is finding and protecting Amelia, and she's kind of a funny character in the sense that she's like modern day leftist in the 1970s.
yeah,
I guess there were people that were that liberal back then too, but everything revolves around her goal and all that, and the fact that at the end of the movie everyone walks free that they were trying to get, which I like. I think that's funny. That ultimately all of their effort was for naught. I think it would have been a little bit more lighthearted if she hadn't died. It just takes what is otherwise a pretty breezy and fun film, and it's like, oh, now she died
yeah.
for help.
I
She got
understand.
shot.
Yeah, I understand that, and yeah, she's kind of like the only real victim at the end of the film. It's like she dies, but yeah, everyone else gets to walk free. It kind of establishes an interesting dynamic for that ending, and to kind of piggyback off of your complaint, I wish since she was Russell Crowe's client or Healy, since she was his client, I wish that they would have used that moment maybe for a little bit more, emotional growth or character growth for Healy's character, because he could just kind of looks at her body and he's just kind of like, and that's it. Like
they don't really. I guess they're all kind of like kicked in the teeth by it when they're like picked up in the cab and everything like that. But
yeah,
that's because the movie very quickly goes back to the tone that it had before her death, but it doesn't feel the same because we lost an innocent already, and I don't know. I still love the movie, but that part always bothered me. Like it it felt wrong when I saw it the first time, and it's felt wrong every time since.
Yeah, I can understand that. It is kind of a jarring moment in the film.
Mm-hmm.
One of my, just to switch gears a little bit, but still kind of in line with some of the negatives or at least complaints that we have with the film, is that I feel like the first time I watched this film, I was confused by the plot.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait, so who is like? I don't know. In general, I have sometimes I have a hard time keeping track of character names and stuff.
Yeah.
So when they're like talking like John Boy, and I'm like, I have no idea who that is. Who are you talking?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of adds a little bit to the confusion for me sometimes. But I don't know. It felt a little disjointed in areas. Like I didn't really understand it myself the first time, and I guess that's kind of how a mystery kind of detective film should feel. But sometimes I just feel like when you're watching it, unless you're paying close attention, you can quickly kind of lose track of what's going on. Do you feel that way when you watch this film?
I don't. I see what you're saying, but an interesting thing about this plot though is that like the plot is really not what March and Healy are doing. The plot is that Amelia and her friends are upset at the corruption happening with the Detroit auto manufacturers. Now they covered up this catalytic converter thing, so they make a film. They have to make it a porno film, and then the government wants to keep their secret, so they start killing everyone who is involved in the film. And that is how March gets involved with Amelia, because Misty Mountains, the porn star of the film, her aunt hires March because he thinks Misty is alive and wants her found. And then that's how Healy gets involved in the plot, because Amelia hires him because she doesn't want this March guy following her around, because she's creeped out and she knows she probably thinks March is trying to kill her because Dean got killed already and Misty got killed already. So she probably is aware. And then so our protagonists kind of fall into the plot, and then it's just about like exposing the corruption of the Justice Department and the Detroit auto manufacturers.
Well, that's a good summary, honestly. And yeah, I think you hit it right on the head there, because it is that story about the automakers and the corruption and people trying to expose the truth, and then the nice guys, they just kind of fall into the plot and they're like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing today, kind of deal. So yeah, I think that was a good way to explain it. And yeah, I think that the fact that it is kind of confusing, and that it is because the antagonist is Detroit, it's the government, it's the auto manufacturers. It's a conspiracy. It's because it's these forces at play that you can't really like point a finger at and definitively say you're the bad guy and here's the proof, because you don't always have the proof to cover it or to back it up. So I think it's I guess that kind of speaks to or at least the confusion of the plot for me speaks to that. Like, oh yeah, it's this tangled web of lies, and there's all these different players in here. So,
yeah, but it is a mystery, and so the confusion is deliberate in the structure, because we find out more and more about what's going on as the plot goes along. I did love when they go to Amelia's protest group, and they keep asking, like, we can't talk to you, we're dead. Like, yes, we're dead. And then he accidentally kicks one. He's like, I'm sorry, I thought you were dead.
Yeah. Or they're like, well, did the gas masks not protect you?
I love that. It's like, in the gas mask, they didn't save you.
Yeah, they got some great
all
banter.
Of them are like, God damn it, our costumes did not line up with our messaging. The birds can't breathe.
What are you protesting? The air.
Yeah. Well, that was a huge issue in LA around that time was the smog.
Right.
So that goes into the period piece setting of it. Like that's a big part of, I guess why it's set then. But you're saying it wasn't initially set in the 70s. Was it just set in modern day initially?
Yeah, when I was doing the original, or when I was researching, doing just research for this podcast, when they were developing the script, I'm not exactly sure when it was. I don't have the exact numbers or what period of development it was, but I think when they were originally developing it, they said, let's make it more of like a contemporary period of time. I think that they were dabbling in the modern day. This was even before they were like going to turn into a film. I think this was like they were even considering like TV or something like that, a series. I don't remember entirely, but yeah, it wasn't originally set in the 70s. But when I watch this film, I love that it's in the 70s. I think the time setting is perfect for it. Like if it was more contemporary, I don't think the plot would have been as strong, especially because I feel like some of the technical abilities of the modern day make some of that PI work very or streamlined, if that makes sense.
Right, and a lot of the plot hinges on people not being able to communicate with each other when they're not in like visual audio range. Like
right.
Like they get, I mean, a big chunk of the film is they're separated at that party and have their own separate misadventures. Like Healy actually working and March getting super hammered and accidentally stumbling on the plot again.
Yeah.
I also love when he falls down there. Like the girl who can place him at the scene is Amelia. Like he finds the person they're looking for, but he's too drunk to understand.
Yeah, right. And I love how when he falls off, he's talking to that one woman with the Native American headpiece, the piece of cultural appropriation that's not cool anymore.
No, it's not. But there she was.
But yeah, it was the 70s, whatever. But like, he's so drunk that he falls off, and then he's tumbling down the hill, and she's like, "That was awesome!"
And then
she
walks
turns around.
Yeah.
She walks away. She forgets she's never gonna remember she had that conversation with that dude.
Yeah, there's like an emptiness that comes over her face, and she turns around and walks away. It's so great.
Like
he swims with the mermaids, which he's like, "Are you wet?" And he's like, "I had to interrogate the mermaids." Or question the mermaids. And I love how just fed up Healy is with him the entire time. It's like, wait, did you fall down the hill? It's like, did you find the body because you fell down? Like, you fucking fell down the hill, didn't you? It's like, yes.
It's not relevant, but yes.
And then at the end, he falls again off the building. And
yeah, that's right.
Keith David splatters on the ground.
Oh. Yeah, that. It's like that scene in the. It was almost like that scene in The Other Guys,
oh yeah,
that film where they jump off
similarly named buddy movie, The Other Guys.
Aim for the bushes. Yeah. Smack on the pavement.
Nobody knows why dancing in the high helped.
Yeah, I mean, that was just. Because of The Other Guys and The Nice Guys, wouldn't that be great if they were all set in the same universe?
That would be, or it's like the Other Guys is just the same chronology but 30 years later or something.
Yeah.
I do love at the end when March utilizes the assumption that he is in fact hammered again to get the line on Keith David, because it for a moment, you're like, oh my god, dude, really? You got hammered already again in this very critical moment, and then he turns it on them. And even Holly is like, Dad, what the hell? I'm gonna die because of your drunk ass.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can tell, even if you're like a first-time viewer, that he's not drunk in that scene, but he does a very good, convincing job. And I think that was very clever for his character and with the writing. I really like that scene. One thing, switching gears again, just to go back to like character development and stuff like that. Like, yes, this is a comedy. Yes, this is like a detective kind of thriller story. Like, it's not even 2 hours. I think the total runtime is probably like
an hour 50. I think.
Yeah, it's not even a super very long movie. But I think, you know, on this third rewatch, I
Mm-hmm.
think that the character development for the two main characters could have been a lot stronger.
Hmm.
Um, at least from my perspective, I think we don't know a whole lot about Russell Crowe's character, even like at the start and all the way to the end. I don't think that we get a lot on his background.
We get that one
He's
flashback.
Yeah, that one flashback where
He accepted her betrayal with equanimity.
yeah.
Fucking your dad.
We, oh yeah.
It's so funny.
Like, yeah, they put that in there, and it's like, okay, he never talks about that again. And then he saves that diner from the guy with the
Diner
shotgun.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's kind of all the background that we get on Russell Crowe's character. Other than that, he's just a tough, no-nonsense guy.
Yeah. Well, he
and
has that thing where he doesn't drink.
Right, yeah, that's
It
a good character
hints
trait.
at stuff about him. So either he just chooses not to drink for presumably because he's had problems with it in the past. And I do love the darkly comedic moment in the final scene where Ryan Gosling's like, "Hey, well, on the bright side, at least you're drinking again."
Yeah.
It's such a great inversion, and like, oh, this is a victory. You're consuming alcohol, this thing you've resisted the entire film.
Yes.
It has been thoroughly broken by the hopelessness of the system, so you are now drinking straight from a bottle.
Yeah, right. I appreciate that ending for it. It's like, yes, that's some good character development for sure. Like, okay, now I'm gonna start drinking again.
Yeah, I like the character development. I think it works for this movie. If it were a different genre or something, maybe I would expect more, but I don't. I got what I needed from all of them, honestly.
Yeah, and that's fair. Yeah, I think it's just like something that I would wish to see, or I would have wished to see, because I feel like, you know, that would add something new. You know, when I'm rewatching it, I could find something new to,
Yeah.
you know, just watch or just be interested in with this film. Because like even with Gosling, you know, we had some development with his character. Like we learned his house burned down, and that he's got that's his fault because he doesn't have that sense of smell.
Yeah.
And you know he's trying to raise this kid on his own, and he's obviously got a problem with alcohol. But I don't know. I feel like we don't know too much more about his background. But yeah, of course, this is a comedy. This film doesn't need a whole lot of character.
No, I think I think the script is very tight, and all those things we've talked about. Like, you're right. The character development for all of them is not in depth, and Holly doesn't have her little side story like you talked about. But I think all of that may have been nice to have, but also may have made a more bloated movie. I don't know. Or more meandering movie. I think everyone serves their role very well in a because there are a lot of characters in this movie, but I don't think anyone is too underserved. I do like that most of the problems come from March basically being horny for Tally, the assistant to the DOJ lady. He wants to like hook up with the Department of Justice lady's assistant.
Oh, I think I remember that. I don't.
He basically like he sees.
Sorry.
Her, and when they're first meeting with the lady, he's like, "Should we get Tally's business card too, just in case like you're not?"
Oh right, yeah.
And then they only leave Amelia in the house because she calls March and it's like, "I need you to take the money for me. I don't feel safe doing it." It's like, "Oh yeah, I'll totally help you."
Right.
And
okay. Tally. Yeah, I forgot about her.
even at the end, they're like confronting her, and she's outlining like all of the terrible things she's done, and he just doesn't believe it. And remember, he's like, "You're not a murderer," and then he was like, "March, she just said she killed 3 people." It's like, yeah, but not deep down. It's so fun. And then when Holly like is being very smart again and pretending to be room service, and then throws the pot of coffee on.
Yeah.
It's like, why did you throw cold coffee on me? I love her delivery of just like, I thought it was hot.
Like, oh, I thought this would play out differently.
Yeah, it's just such a like a well thought out plan, but she missed one crucial element. But then it works out anyway because she slips on the coffee and hits her head.
Right. Yeah, that really worked out well. And yeah, I think that was just one of those characters where like I just kind of lost track of them. I was like, wait, where did she come into play? Who is
Yeah.
she again? That kind of stuff.
She's
So.
just the assistant who's in on the conspiracy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that was very funny how she got the coffee and everything, and him scrambling for the gun in his leg. Like I thought that was very funny.
It was great. And the speaking of the gun on the leg, the greatest cameo.
Right.
Hannibal
the greatest
Buress
cameo.
as a hallucination of a giant bumblebee.
I love Hannibal in anything. Oh my gosh. And his voice was perfect here. Like
I didn't know it was him until this rewatch, and I'm like, wait a minute. I know this voice.
Yeah, me too. I didn't realize that until this rewatch as well.
Y'all spinning around like balls. Seething with jealousy. I am.
Get out of the shot, man.
Get out of the shot.
Some garbage is okay.
God, Hannibal's the Eric Andre show. I'm guessing it's still on, but
Oh yeah.
I'm watching all that in college.
Yeah, I haven't seen that show in forever, and I know that's where he kind of got his start. But
Yeah, you know that scene where Eric shoots Hannibal like 20 times and turns around. It's like, who killed Hannibal? That has become a meme format recently. I don't know.
Of course.
Yeah.
I love that. It's such a good meme. And who killed Hannibal?
Yeah. It's like the first panel is American conservatives is Eric Andre just like doing all the Reagan era policies, and Hannibal's the economy, and turns around it's like, who ruined the U.S. economy? It's like, you, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But
yeah, that was a great cameo of like that was a great voice acting choice. Like throw Hannibal in there, and yeah, I think that like the whole hallucination scene was very funny because it's like there's no way he's like awake. No.
Right? It's just, and I loved it. Like the implication later when he goes for the ankle gun, he remembers he was speaking to a bee in that same interaction, and he's like, it takes him a minute to remember this. Like, oh, that wasn't real.
Yeah. Well, I like they did a good tie-in at the end there because they're sitting at the bar, and they're talking about the ad, and then he sees the bumblebee and he just like freaks out, like tries to kill it, like I thought that was.
Of course, Healy is like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I think that was a good callback. I was like, oh yeah, that's because he saw a killer bee at the start, and they were talking about killer bees. Like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yep. Yep. And I think one more just side note is there's some like side characters who show up for a scene or two who I think are pretty memorable, like the little kid who bikes by when they're at Dean's burned out house, and he's just like, yeah, they were filming a porno here, and I asked them if they wanted to see my dick because I got a big dick, and then he just like at the end of the scene he's like, if you want to see my dick, I'll show it to you for $20. And then Marge is like, we already gave you 20. What am I saying? Like,
yeah. Of course, I don't want to give you $20 extra. Like,
that guy, the villains, I think are pretty fun. The lady who hired March, I think, is pretty funny. And she's just the poor old woman. Like they're piecing all of this together in the house. I guess Misty's house.
Right.
And then she's like, oh, so does this mean Misty is dead? And he's like, yes. Obviously, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. My condolences.
Yeah, it's like, sorry.
Yeah, I like that delivery, and she's a fun character.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree that the little boy is very funny as well, and they did a good job of like casting everyone and getting some good side characters in there. So, I think my gripe, is just like I think one of my bigger gripes with this film. Because I think it's solid all the way through. It's well written, it's well executed. Like the casting's great, and I think just my main gripe is just like third time viewing this film. I personally think that this is one of those films that abides by that law of diminishing marginal return. Okay. It's like where you have like this whole tray of cookies, and you eat one cookie, and you're like, wow, that was great. And by the fifth cookie, you're like, okay, I don't like this as much. I'm tired of this flavor, and I think that's just kind of one of the problems with this film is like once you watch it one time or two times, you kind of know what's going to happen. Like very
The
well. Like
comedy genre thing too.
sure, yeah, and I think yeah, that's the limits of the genre. That's the limits of like what they're trying to do with this film, and you know, I'm not going to go back and rewatch a comedy a million times,
Yeah.
because I know what the jokes are. But I'll go back and I'll rewatch some films, over and over again,
Hmm.
because you'll find something new every time, or you'll find something that's like, or you'll find a new element that's like that piques your interest. Like I'll go
Hmm.
back and I'll rewatch, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I hope we discuss one
I'm
day
sure we
on this
will.
podcast.
Yes.
But that's one of my favorite films, and every time I go back, I can find something new to look at. It. Crash is a similar way with that. That's a fun film too, and you know, again, I think that's the limits of the genre here.
Hmm.
Like you were saying that, yeah, it's a comedy. Once you've seen it, you know the jokes, but
Yeah.
I overall I still really like this film. I think for me personally, on the third rewatch, it's not as like fresh or great, but that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I think for me, the joy of rewatching comedic films is in showing them to someone who hasn't seen them before. Like because
Hmm.
it is true. You learn the jokes, and a lot of humor is surprise and subversion, and that's where comedy comes from. In a lot of it, it's like you say something funny, you establish a pattern, you break the pattern. Comedy.
Hmm.
um, but and
Totally.
I think The Nice Guys is like it's a very slick film. It's got a lot of style, sharp dialogue, um, tightly written characters, but it's not deep or anything. So I see what you're saying. It's probably not meant to be watched like 20 something times, which is okay. Uh,
Yeah.
like every movie is different and serves a different function in entertainment, and I think like I have gotten a significant amount of joy from watching and rewatching this movie, but I probably won't watch it again for a couple years. Um,
Yeah, me too.
okay.
And yeah, and I mean, that doesn't mean that I didn't notice some new things this rewatching,
Uh
like
huh.
the guy putting like putting his drink on
Hmm.
that person's like ass in the background. Like
Yeah.
I didn't notice that the last two times I watched it. I thought that was a good way to shoehorn a nice joke in there.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I did notice some new things when I watched this film.
Lots
But
of
yeah,
visual gags just in the background
yes,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. Let's see. So this movie ends with they are working together as PIs now.
Hmm.
There have been off and on like people who say this movie should get a sequel. Do you think it should? Do you think there should be a Nice Guys 2? Electric Boogaloo.
I I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no to watching a Nice Guys 2. Like I think that would be it would be a fun film to
Hmm.
watch. I don't think they need it, honestly, because they wrapped up everything really nicely. Like, the story's contained. Like now
Yeah.
they're obviously going to move on and do this buddy PI work together, and
Hmm.
Holly's in a good position now. Like they're obviously all friends, and um, I think it was a good place to end the film.
Yeah.
But if they were like, let's do it, Nice Guys 2, set in the like late '80s or something like
Hmm.
that, when Holly's grown up a little bit more or something like
Yeah.
that, I wouldn't say no to that.
She's
That
in the
sounds like a fun
Spider-Man
time.
movies, by the way. Holly.
That's right. Yeah,
She's
that's where I
Betty
noticed
Brant.
her.
She's Ned's
Yeah,
girlfriend in Far From Home.
I like her character a lot in those
Yeah.
films.
Um, but I kind of agree. Thinking about it though, while you were talking, it's like, well, this has a lot of Lethal Weapon DNA in it. I think.
Yeah.
And Lethal Weapon as a franchise, I have not seen them all. I saw Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, and I liked both of those. But from my understanding, 3 and 4 are really weak, and the TV show didn't look very good. So it's like maybe it's better that we never get a sequel. It's like we had a very great and fun movie, and it ended. As opposed to, I mean, that's my general preference, as opposed to a series that just goes on and then gets less good and less good over time, and it sours your appreciation for the original as well if that happens. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd watch
I
more from the characters, but maybe it's best they are left alone.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? Maybe in like 10 or 12 years or something like that, or even sooner, maybe they could do like a nicer guys, and it could be like it could either be Russell Crowe and Gosling again, or it
Hmm.
could be like similar-ish characters of
Yeah.
theirs,
Hmm.
that are like taking up the mantle from them or something like
Okay.
that. Like maybe like some sons or we need a lot more time to elapse for that. But like like if they wanted to, they could do like a nicer guys that's like set in like the 2010s or something like that.
Yeah, I suppose they could.
But yeah, I would agree that I think the conclusion was great for these characters, and this I think if you try and recreate the magic
Hmm.
again, it's like it could either feel just like a cash grab or like you're just gonna miss the point.
Yeah,
Like I think only like jumps like with Jump Street, they did a great job of like doing a sequel,
they did. They
and
did.
I think that's
But the Jump Street movies are also more satirical
yeah,
than
they're
others.
entirely different. They're
Yeah,
entirely different.
like, and just a quick tangent on the Jump Street movies. Remember when there was a rumor that they were going to do a crossover with Men in Black next?
Oh yeah,
And everybody shat on that idea because on the surface it's like, what the hell? Why would you do this? But think about it. It's perfect. The first film makes fun of unnecessary reboots. The second one makes fun of unnecessary sequels. The third one, of course, you make fun of unnecessary franchise crossovers. And if they were able to get Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith, which is not what they were planning to do, but even if they got Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth, even though apparently that movie is bad, that's it. It's perfect.
yeah, that'll be funny.
Sequel crossover done, but they're not. Yeah, they're done with the Jump Street movies, which is fine. The 22
Yeah,
is so good. So is 20, but 22 is better.
yeah, I would agree. Yeah, that would be really funny. Yeah, to go from unnecessary to different levels of unnecessary. That would be very funny to check out.
I love 22 Jump Street so much. It's like, this is Vietnamese Jesus, you racist sack of shit. It's so good.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I'll just pull a quote out of thin air and I'll be like, where did I get that from?
Yeah.
Oh, Jump Street. That's
Yeah.
right.
God,
my
it's so funny. It's like, I can't believe the Koreans bought the church back. Yeah, it's really convenient that there was an even bigger church just across the street. Incredibly convenient.
I love that.
It's amazing. It's such a good movie.
But you know what it is?
Sometime.
My girlfriend's family. Yeah, we should definitely watch 22 Jump Street and review that sometime. But my girlfriend's family, they have a cat named Doug, and every time I see him, I'm like, "What's up, Doug? I'm gonna pet you, Doug." It's just the way Ice Cube says it in
Oh my God.
22 Jump Street. I love it.
That whole sequence culminating in Channing Tatum with the literal ding sound effect.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Oh my God. Before we go off too far, let's bring it back.
Yeah. Let's bring it back to the
in.
nice guys.
Bring it back to the nice guys. I guess we can do closing thoughts. I continue to love this movie with the one caveat of Amelia's death really bothers me and I think damages the film overall. But otherwise, I think it is a very tight script with great and fun characters, very colorful, very energetic, and a fun watch that I would recommend to everyone, probably.
Yeah, sure. I'm kind of in a similar line of thinking. I haven't seen a lot of Shane Black's stuff in the past, or seen a lot of the movies that he's wrote. I pulled this one quote from Wikipedia. That's where I do some of my research sometimes. But it's quote is that like his style of writing is characterized by stories in which two main characters become friends, problematic protagonists who become better human beings at the end of the narrative, and trade witty dialogue featuring labyrinth crime plots. And I think that perfectly summarizes this film. I think it's these two main characters. Excuse me. They become friends. They do a great job of that, of like bringing them together, and they're very kind of on the opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're still very similar because they're PIs and they got a lot of similar mannerisms. But they're very well written, and I think it's a good film overall. And yeah, I just don't think that it has the same rewatchability as other comedies or other movies might have. Like just to quote one of the big ones like Blues Brothers or Animal House, like I think that those are like I can rewatch those films like every year for the rest of my life and still find them funny. But that's everyone's got their personal preferences, and I'll definitely rewatch this movie, but probably not for like 3 or 4 years. And
Yeah.
overall, I'd recommend this movie as well.
I guess I should have asked this earlier, but what do you think about the element at the end of the movie that there's just a futility to it, to everything they did? Ultimately, it changed nothing. I think it's kind of clever. I don't know what it's saying necessarily, but I guess that it's just there are some problems that are too big for a private investigator and a beat 'em up guy to solve. But
Yeah, I think I appreciate the message. It is kind of pessimistic.
it's very bleak. But
Yeah, it's real bleak. On the one hand, I think it's a good commentary for like the 70s and kind of that whole era, because I feel like, again, clearly neither you or nor I were alive during the 70s, but I feel like the 70s was a time of revolution and change and new ideas. And I guess you could say the same for the 60s, but like with like the hippie movement and like all that new music coming out, and like all these people were like, we're going to change the world, man. Like we're going to, we're going to change the world and smoke weed the whole time. And, at the end of the day, they didn't.
yeah. Well, because dismantling power structures is not about two guys and their actions. It takes more than that. Maybe that's thing, if anything.
Yeah, two nice guys are not going to overhaul the entire American auto industry overnight.
It is systemic.
Yeah, it's a lot more complicated than that. You got to deal with the corruption, and even if you make a porno film to try and get the truth out, you're gonna need a bigger marketing campaign than just that.
Yeah, but I mean, it does speak to the like how untouchable the powerful are. It's like the powerful maintain their power because they are protected by the law. So dismantling power structures is the most difficult thing in the world because everything is against you.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, and it provides a different kind of layer to the film at the end there, I'd say, but still, I feel like it's lighthearted enough to
it balances that with because the ending is pretty funny and light, even though Russell Crowe has fallen off the wagon.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not going to jail for anything. Like, the cops didn't give them a hard time about anything. They got off scot-free for any damages they might have caused.
Yeah. Every time the cops show up, it's like, that'd be the cops. Like, pulling a cigarette, lighting it, and waiting for the interaction, whatever that is.
He's like, whatever.
Great movie, though. One of the handful of my favorites over the last few years, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a solid one. And yeah, I'd highly recommend it. Yeah, check it out.
It's on my wall, right there.
Woo! Yeah, there it is. Obviously, he likes movies.
yeah, there are more in that room. Oh, oops. I moved my movie posters out of the common area for the most part. But yeah, let's move on to other stuff we are watching, reading. What do you got going on? What have you been consuming recently?
Well, yesterday I finally finished the second compendium of the Invincible comics. If you guys have been listening to our last podcast, ever since Invincible came out and started airing on Amazon, I got obsessed with it. So I bought the first two compendiums of the comics. So I finally finished those. Now I got to buy the third one. So hopefully I'll have a lot of good information for when the next season comes out, and I'll be a good knowledge source for everyone when we're talking about Invincible, whenever that next season.
You should watch Wisecrack's video on Invincible, like the show versus the book. It's interesting. They talk about how they existed in two separate times. Like the Invincible comic came out on the back half of like the 90s super hardcore edgy comic movement, so it was kind of existing as a satire and play that. Whereas the show came out now, where the superhero genre has blown up, did not have another repeat like edgy 90s hardcore phase that's super cringe. So the show is less satirical than the book was, because it's not existing in contrast to this like cringe stuff, and how the show recontextualizes Omni-Man's role by when they place the reveal of his actions. It was an
Oh,
interesting watch. I think you'd enjoy it since you have
yeah.
done both book and show so far.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Oh, that sounds neat. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to hold off on a lot of those videos right now because I'm like, I don't want spoilers for the comics. I don't want.
It
I
doesn't.
don't.
It only spoils the stuff that you have read. So,
Right. Okay. Good to know.
but I continue.
Yeah. So besides that, I've been watching Loki.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic series on Disney Plus. Highly recommend. As soon as the first episode came out, I rewatched it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I watched it and then I rewatched it. It was that good. Like I'm very excited to talk about that once we get to that. And I've also been watching a great amount of Great British Bake Off. Just like I've seen all the seasons, so I'm
Uh-huh.
really just rewatching it, and it's just because it's nice and it's lighthearted and it's fun and it's like, oh, it's everyone loves each other. Like it's nice. And I've been there was this show on Netflix called Black Summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a zombie series.
Okay.
But I really like it because it's more of like a stream of consciousness kind of thing for the zombie, or like following the zombies. It's not like, okay, 28 days have passed and here's
Mm-hmm.
what's happened. It's kind of like, oh, you're following these people like right, like the camera's like basically like right behind them as they're kind of running through everything and doing
Uh-huh.
all these kind of cool sequences. And the first season came out like I think like a year or two ago, and
Okay.
it's like it was actually summer. And I like it now. The second season came out, and it's in the dead of winter.
Hmm.
So it's a bit of a different contrast there. So I've been liking it. I've been enjoying it. So if you like zombie stuff, check it out.
So is it, if the camera is right on them, is it like a documentary style?
No, I guess that was kind of a poor way to put it. It was
Okay.
like I think it's just more like kind of like I didn't see Bird, or what was that guy called?
Oh, quiet.
It was like Birdman or whatever, where it was like following Michael Keaton. Or
Oh, yeah. I love Birdman. That's a good movie.
yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I still need to watch that. But like from what I understand, it basically like follows him around like the whole
The
time.
entire
like, kinda like,
movie is meant to look like it's one continuous shot.
Right.
It's not. They hide cuts, but they hide them very well.
right.
There's a great scene of him and Edward Norton, and they walk out of the theater where they're working, down the street to a bar, get a drink, talk, and come back. And it's great. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I believe you. I'd say that Black Summer kind of has a similar style to it, where it's
Okay.
like you're kind of following these individual people as they're trying to, survive the zombie apocalypse. But like it's very kind of interesting how they tell the story, and it puts you in the moment where it's like, oh my god, there's a zombie coming, and it's like 20 feet away. Like like it can get tense, but it's yeah, it's a fun little zombie film or
Neat.
series, excuse me. What about you, Dylan? What have you been watching, reading, and stuff lately?
Well, I have been reading the fourth and final of the released Stormlight Archive books, Rhythm of War. I am about halfway through. It's very exciting. So I'm like 550 pages in or something like that. Got a lot left to read. But I have also been watching Loki, really enjoying it. I think it's interesting that a lot of people are kind of down on the most recent episode. But I thought it was great. So I don't know what people want from this stuff. It's like
Yeah.
the episode that focused exclusively on character development and dynamics between the two leads. I'm trying to be very vague to avoid spoilers. Oh, that's the one you didn't like. That's interesting. I liked it a lot. I've enjoyed this entire show. The dynamic between Loki and Mobius, Owen Wilson's character, is a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
think we will talk about Loki soon.
We will.
Yeah, but I started Sweet Tooth. I watched the first episode of that on Netflix. Really great. I like it. I'm going to keep watching it. I just haven't gotten back to it. My understanding is that the comic it is based off of is much darker and more depressing. This seems more whimsical in a way. It's still dark and bad things happen, but do you know the premise of this show at all?
I don't really.
So so how it kicks off, and I've only seen episode 1, but there is a plague sweeping through humanity, and it's a very serious disease, and then also, at the same time, all these babies are being born as hybrids. They're like human-animal hybrids. And they don't know if the hybrids are what caused the disease, or if the disease caused the hybrids, or if they're related at all. And so the first episode follows Will Forte, who is the father of the protagonist, Gus, as he journeys into the woods and lives with his little hybrid son, who is a little boy with deer ears and antlers. And the first episode just kind of like really focuses on their life in the woods. And then it ends with Gus going off on an adventure. And that's all I'll say to avoid spoilers for that show. But it's very interesting. I'm excited to watch more of it.
That sounds cool. I like that description. Yeah, that's real neat. Now, you said Will Forte is his father. Is he in the series any longer after that, or do you know?
I do know. It's a spoiler a little bit for the first episode, but
okay, then don't tell me. I love Will Forte and anything he does.
He is excellent. But if we talk about the hero's journey, Will Forte is the ordinary world that the hero must embark beyond. Of
course.
So I won't say exactly what happens as to why, but Will Forte is not going to be on the adventure with Gus.
That's okay.
But he is the centerpiece of the first episode, for sure, I would say.
That's cool. Nice.
And I've probably watched or read something else, but I can't really remember right now. So that's all.
That's okay.
We don't have any audience questions yet. If you want to reach us to ask us a question, send an email to playpauserewindpod@gmail.com or hashtag playpauserewindpod on Twitter, and we will find them and collect them. Next episode is going to be July 14th. It will be Black Widow. And subsequent, the Marvel movies are back in theaters. I need to go back to the theater. I need to see Quiet Place 2 and In the Heights, maybe. That's getting mixed.
Yeah, I've heard that. That looks cool.
Seems like a good thing to see in the theater. And after Black Widow, I had Space Jam 2 written down, but I don't really give a shit about that. I'd rather talk about Loki, if you're good with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't really have much interest in watching the new Space Jam. The original...
I have not seen the original, so...
Dylan! The original's very 90s, but it's fun. I watched that a lot as a kid, so that's kind of... I don't need to see the new one.
Yeah, so I think we're going to have a little bit of a Marvel run for a bit. We'll do Black Widow next and Loki after that. So, unfortunately, Loki ends the day of our next episode's release, so we can't talk about that fast track, but it'll be fine. But yeah, that's where can people reach you online, Niles?
People can, if you want, you can follow me on Instagram. I got an account called Niles Got No Styles. That's kind of all I got going on right now. Please follow this podcast, though.
Yes.
Play Pause Rewind. We really have been enjoying doing this. This is our 12th episode, so we still got a small audience, but we enjoy doing this, obviously, and we like talking about music or movies and TV. And I like talking about music too, but which I guess we could maybe experiment with in the future. But yeah, we like talking about entertainment. So if you do too, then please give us a follow.
Yep.
Dylan, where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram at DylanD1026, on Twitter at DDayMovies. You can also find me on YouTube at DDayMovies, and I started Twitch streaming. That's DDay_movies. Everything is linked for both of us in the description, though. And like Niall said, if you like this, subscribe on your podcast platform of choice or on YouTube or both. Leave a review if you feel so inclined. And share it. If there are other people you know that you think would be interested in our show, please introduce them. That is how these things grow. But thank you very much for listening and or watching.
Yes.
We appreciate it. If you've been around for multiple episodes, thank you for sticking around. Everyone.
Yeah.
Have a good 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.